This is really a going public transaction. There's broadly speaking, two ways you can do it. You can do a traditional IPO, or you can do it via SPAC. And there's many, many more SPACs today than there were 5 years ago. Why might they do the transaction via SPAC as opposed to an IPO? Number one, it's considered a merger, not an IPO. You can spend more time with prospective investors. Virgin Galactic could spend a lot of time with Chamath and his team. That's different than a 35-minute roadshow meeting at an IPO. Also, you can share a lot more information. If your viewers go through and they look at the deck on the internet, the sales document, it actually has a financial plan that extends out 3-4 years into the future. You can't do that with an IPO. So you can really help investors understand the business. And finally, and importantly, you saw that Richard Branson and other equity shareholders took money off the table. That's really off limits in the IPO markets in the US. If you look over the last 2 years, IPOs that had a big, what's called secondary component, that's this component of taking money off the table, they've performed, quite frankly, terribly.
So is this a bearish signal for this, if the founder, if Virgin Group, other investors, as you say, are wanting to get their money out? I
actually think it's a good signal in the following respect. You don't want to have what's called a private equity overhang or an insider overhang where insiders own too much of the company. This is not a big company. I think the enterprise value here is it's between $1 billion and $2 billion. And one of the concerns you have is you want to have a big enough free float. You want to have enough shares trading publicly that aren't in a single investor's hands. So I actually, when I read through and I saw that it was either 300 or 400 million being paid out to selling shareholders, my first reaction is that's actually smart. Look, to Richard Branson, is that life-changing? Quite frankly, I don't think it's life-changing, but I think the way they were thinking about the capital structure going forward made a lot of sense.
Are you concerned at all about the timing of the SPACs that are coming now, given the fact that the market's at highs and you're competing against private equity and corporate, who are looking to buy everything in sight? Is that a concern? It just seems like there's a lot of SPACs and a lot more money coming in. Is that a concern at all?
Yeah, on an absolute basis, valuations are high, but that's because, the S&P's at all-time highs today. What SPACs are really trying to find is deals that make sense for a SPAC. In other words, if something just makes sense as a traditional IPO, I'm not chasing it. If something makes sense selling it to KKR for 100% cash, I'm not chasing it. But if there's a private equity owner that really loves a business but wants to take some money off the table for fund dynamic reasons or market dynamic reasons, and yet they want to roll a significant stake and ride the upside in the public market, I'm not worried about it at all. I actually think it's a really, really clever vehicle, and you're seeing terrific deals. There was one done that closed about 2 months ago. Clarivate Analytics has traded up about 40%. The deal today is traded up about 8% from the initial raise of $10 a share. So I think it's a pretty smart vehicle.
What do you think about the world's first publicly traded space tourism company? I mean, what have we learned about, I don't know, I'm thinking Uber and Lyft so far, getting into completely new industries that are flashy and exciting.
Or beyond meat.
Yeah.
So let me caveat it by saying I know nothing about space tourism. So, like if my wife were here, she'd say, well, that never stops you on any other topic. So I think it's just crazy enough that it could actually work. If you look at the economic model, it's actually refreshingly simple. They take people to space and they charge for it. And so I'm not looking at this saying, this is
Chamath says it's a software company.
Well, that's ridiculous, but Chamath is a marketer, right? Chamath also compared himself to Michael Jordan. He also came back to his investors, and he did exactly what he said he was going to do, and he came back with an interesting deal.